Meghan a geriatric mother. The family claims and states that Meghan had a hysterectomy. How can a woman with a hysterectomy be pregnant? And most of all, why did the royal family go along with this? And what's going to happen now that this has come out? This is a punishable crime. This is fraud at the highest levels.
It looks like the stomach is fake, where the baby, I swear that's the first thing I thought.
If you had those things, it would be very easy just to put them out there and say, this is what happened. This is what it is.
The very first moment I saw that baby bump, it honestly looked almost unreal, like it wasn't really there. The kind of thing that makes you stop and think, wait a minute, is that stomach even genuine? It's such an odd feeling, but it's the exact initial reaction I had. Now, think back to when Meghan Markle finally went into labor. She didn't opt for the usual royal hospital, the one customarily reserved for members of the royal family. Nope, she insisted on sidestepping the traditional venue and famously refused the standard medical team who'd been trusted with royal births for decades. This decision alone raised a few eyebrows, but then things started to feel even more unusual. Add to that the strange timing of Archie's birth, a perfect storm of secrecy and quiet whispers that sent endless ripples through gossip circles. At first, it seemed like just a few online commentators and conspiracy-style YouTubers were tossing around theories, but then something shifted.
Meghan Markle's official Sussex Squad troll leader has finally addressed those moon bump claims. But of course it's all our fault, according to Christopher Boozy, the biggest troll on the internet. The bloke who claimed that Catherine was faking the videos at the height of her cancer battle. But this cretin, this hypocrite, is trying to say it's all our fault.
This wasn't fringe anymore. The conversation reached a whole new level when Hugo Vickers, a widely respected historian specializing in the royal family, stepped into the spotlight. Now, Hugo isn't some tabloid sensationalist looking for clicks. He is a man who personally knew the late Queen, who has spent decades behind the scenes, navigating royal protocols with a steady, careful voice. He is the kind of expert who weighs every syllable as if he's carefully peeling back layers of a delicate secret. So when Hugo spoke openly about the timeline, his words carried immense weight. This was not idle speculation. He highlighted discrepancies in the official story, pointing directly to the palace's announced timeline for Meghan going into labor.
And he says B, at least one pregnancy was via surrogate, making the child ineligible for the line of succession. C, she wore a moon bump or other fake pregnancy tummy. Now,
I would be very disappointed that people would be so easily duped by this con woman.
And when you're pregnant, there's not a pillow under your skirt. And there's live footage of her walking towards camera with her abdomen swaying left to right in a black and white checkered dress.
And suddenly, what seemed like mere online chatter exploded into a serious conversation, rippling far beyond corners of the internet and shaking the very foundations of royal narratives. The story begins in the quiet pre-dawn hours. When the announcement first dropped, she was in labor. But then, almost unbelievably, just 20 minutes later, another message came through, saying the baby had already arrived at 5:26 that very same morning. Take a moment and let that sink in. The notification that labor had started actually came times after times the announcement that the birth had taken place. It's as if the natural order of events had been flipped on its head. Hugo Vickers, always measured and meticulous, pointed out something remarkable if you track the timeline carefully. She's the only woman he's ever heard of who went into labor times after times having given birth. It sounds like a paradox, a kind of time-warping event that defies everything we know about delivery. To put it more plainly, Lady C, known for cutting through the fog of formalities, offered her own blunt interpretation. She summarized the confusion in a way everyone could understand. What Hugo was really hinting at was that the whole birth announcement felt a little...
And I have spoken to doctors, nurses, many women who've given birth to children, and all of them say the same thing. Those photographs of Meghan and the way the baby bump performed are totally unexpected, and they're not aware of any baby, any pregnant woman who is genuinely pregnant having her bump perform the way Meghan's has performed.
Do you remember Meghan actually refused to use the hospital that was usually used by royals and refused to use all of the normal medical staff, and there was all of the weirdness over the timing of the birth of Archie?
Off, like there might be something not quite right about the story. You can't possibly go into labor times after times your baby is already born. It just doesn't work that way. But this isn't just about the weird timing. The real intrigue lies deeper in the very tale of the birth itself, the one Prince Harry shared in his own words. There's something compelling in how that narrative unfolds, a story that leaves you wondering if all the details truly add up. The story unfolds with a memoir recounting a challenging labor 2 epidurals administered, and then, almost by the couple's own narrative, they were whisked back to Frogmore Cottage within just a couple of hours. But here's where royal enthusiasts and those who have personally weathered childbirth find themselves scratching their heads. The timeline simply doesn't add up in their experience. So, why does this seemingly trivial confusion over timing carry so much weight? Well, it's tied to an age-old tradition that most people have probably never even heard of. For centuries, there has been a strict protocol when it comes to royal births. An official witness was always present. Historically,
The royal family is constrained by the law. Harry managed to get Archie's birth certificate as a result of the claiming that Archie was born at Portland Hospital to a woman who was identified at the time of the birth as the Duchess of Sussex, but was not Meghan, was not Rachel Meghan, Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Sussex, because had it been Rachel Meghan, Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Sussex, they wouldn't have needed to amend the birth certificate to eliminate Meghan as the possibility of the woman who gave birth to the baby. There's all of that. These are all legal realities that the palace can't work its way around. You can't work your way around. I can't work my way around. The mainstream media can't work its way around.
A government minister would be stationed just in the next room as a form of assurance and public trust. While this might sound bizarre in today's world, it actually grew from a very real and dramatic event known as the Warming Pan Affair of 1688. To put it simply, a queen was once accused of sneaking in a baby to claim the throne. This wild accusation sparked a lasting policy. Every royal heir's birth had to be verified independently, documented, and signed off by a credible witness to ensure no questions could ever arise. And here's the kicker. The key point running silently beneath the surface of this entire story. This moment marked the first time that tradition, the official eyewitness rule, faced a challenge of sorts. For generations, this rule provided an unassailable guarantee that the royal succession was beyond doubt. But with this birth, the details, the official announcements, and the timelines leave room for speculation and perhaps concern about transparency.
Let's remember she intended to call the child Lilibet, and let's remember that the obstetrician that she has named as her obstetrician not only deals with surrogacy, but her husband is an expert in surrogacy, and that their practices overlap. Let's remember all of that, and let's remember also that the doctor immediately, as soon as the child was born, cancelled for after that month every other patient. It's virtually unheard of for a doctor to do something like that.
It's a subtle but significant shift in an ancient ritual that people thought was ironclad, and that's why this muddled announcement raises so many eyebrows and demands closer attention. In the entire modern history of the royal family, there's never been a single instance where an independent medical professional has stepped forward to verify the birth of 2 children who are in the line of succession. Every other royal mother, without exception, had this standard met with ease, no questions asked, no red flags raised. But this time, it was different. This particular royal figure, the same one who frequently voices how unfairly she's been treated, found herself unable, or perhaps unwilling, to meet that same basic criterion. It's a striking contrast, especially given the transparency and tradition expected in such matters. Now, let's move on to the moment that ignited a firestorm online, the moment that quite literally set the internet buzzing and dividing opinion. While historians and official voices debated the validity of the birth certificates and official records behind closed doors, the online world took a very different approach. True to its nature, the internet went straight to what it does best, analyzing every image.
So she had to accept, that the things would be happening on a national level. And that's what the royal family has to accept as well. And most of them understand that. And so you make announcements. You tell people, the child's going to be born. You tell it where it's going to be born. You tell it when it was born. You show the child at a certain point. You tell us who the godparents are going to be. And we all enjoy this. And we're very much then, we, the general public, very much on the side of the person doing that and sort of enjoying it because they are a family at the centre of the nation. And that's all part of it. So to deny us that, I think, was sort of, kicking in causing trouble and showing she was going to do it her way. And that's when things began to go wrong.
Every photo, every subtle detail available to the public. And unfortunately for Meghan, those images couldn't have been more damaging. Let's rewind to the very first photo she shared herself, an image intended to mark a joyful wedding anniversary. What was supposed to be a celebratory gesture quickly became an unexpected source of skepticism. The photo showed a nearly bare baby bump, elegantly displayed and styled as if to honor a beautiful family milestone. Yet, instead of unanimous congratulations, the picture sparked intense scrutiny. On a popular social media platform, often dedicated to deep dives and detailed looks, Lady C, one of the many observers, immediately zoomed in on an aspect most women watching instantly picked up on: her arms. Look at her arms.
Hugo Vickers is a cautious guy. He's a guy who has very close connections to the royal family. And a lot of what he says, you have to read between the lines. But it was very telling to me that he seemed to be speaking about the concern within the British royal family and the sort of puzzlement that she is the only woman who gave birth and then subsequently went into labour later in the day. They know something's up here, don't they? Or they at least suspect something's up.
She pointed out, her tone dripping with disbelief and doubt. And honestly, when you really pause to study the photo, you begin to understand why those observations took hold. The arms appeared unusually slim and toned, almost as if they didn't quite match the idea of a pregnant woman at that stage. The internet's relentless gaze examined every angle, light and shadow, fueling an ever-growing conversation that blurred the lines between personal privacy and public scrutiny. This wasn't just a photo anymore. It became a symbol, a spark, a viral flashpoint that sparked endless debate about authenticity, perception, and the complex realities of royal life in the digital age. They looked impossibly thin, almost like they'd been carved out of paper. The truth is, when a woman goes through pregnancy, weight doesn't just show up in one place, it's a full-body transformation.
What Hugo is actually saying is the birth has raised questions of fraudulence because you cannot give birth after you have given birth. So he's saying the announcement and the whole failure of the timeline to coordinate.
She did give birth, and then she'd given birth, several hours before. She'd had 2 epidurals, and then she was home within 2 hours. And now we've learned that she'd suffered from dangerous, the eclampsia. And I'm sorry, no woman after 2 epidurals is just walking out of hospital a couple of hours later, sent on her merry way.
It's not just about the belly growing. The bust fills out, the face softens and rounds, and even the legs tend to gain a bit more shape. It's a whole new silhouette, a complete makeover dictated by nature's incredible design. But then, Lady C dropped a bombshell comment that sent shockwaves across social media and made the story explode in popularity. She asked the question no one had dared to voice out loud. Why is the belly so noticeably darker, several shades browner than the rest of her skin? That observation was a game changer. Because the reality is, when skin stretches, it tends to lighten or sometimes develop faint stretch marks, But it certainly doesn't turn darker, so either the image was digitally altered, or as Lady C put it with a sharp wit, she's wearing a perfectly tanned fake belly. And the intrigue didn't stop there. There was the infamous claim about the weight gain 60 to 65 pounds.
Centuries of healthy skepticism and caution were therefore discarded. It now emerges rather naively, thereby letting in the possibility of an interloper whose actions were more reminiscent of a hustling operator than a woman of good and regal repute, with the result that her actions would actually encourage the public to question whether one of the greatest scams of all time had been perpetrated upon the royal family and the several nations whose head of state originates according to the rules of legitimacy, which the now plainly wise custom of witnessed births, clearly signed off by legitimate medical witnesses, were intended to preclude and had since 1689 precluded.
Meghan herself shared on her own podcast that she had gained a whopping 65 pounds. But Lacey's reaction was nothing short of theatrical. She asked the seemingly innocent but loaded question, but where did all that weight actually go? There was an eerie silence, and then Lacey giggled as if she knew a secret no one else did. It was never really 65 pounds, was it? At best, she must have been at least 27 months pregnant, she joked, dripping with irony. The exaggeration seemed so implausible, it felt like a scene from a script no one could have dreamed up. And then came the piece de resistance, the ultrasound photo Meghan boldly slipped into the same collage. That one image sparked feverish speculation from countless amateur detectives lurking online, sparking theories and debates from every corner. The ultrasound, curiously, didn't reveal what one would expect from a typical pregnancy scan. Instead, it seemed to raise more questions than it answered, throwing gasoline on the fire of speculation. The whole situation felt like a puzzle with missing pieces, and every revelation only deepened the mystery, leaving a captivated audience hungry for answers.
Meghan at the Albert Hall. How many weeks pregnant was she supposed to be? Was it about 8 weeks? And she looks as if she's at least 5 months pregnant. Meghan didn't gain any weight on her bust. They gained weight on their arms. Meghan didn't gain... Look at those skinny arms. And also, why is the belly several shades browner than anywhere else? It's not supposed to be browner. Skin, when it stretches, gets lighter. It doesn't get darker.
There was no hospital name, no reference number, just a grainy little photo that seemed to drift aimlessly in space, silently begging to be taken at face value. No date, no clear source, just a vague image floating in the void. Then, the moment everyone was waiting for arrived, the dance. For Lilibet's 4th birthday, Meghan shared a video that had never been seen before. In it, she was bouncing and swaying around a hospital room, supposedly 9 months pregnant, trying to coax labor to start on its own. The video exploded overnight, racking up an astonishing 21 million views in just one day. But paradoxically, what was meant to convince and inspire only cast more doubt. Unexpectedly, even someone like Meghan Kelly, who had dismissed the entire narrative for years, found herself pausing and questioning. Watching closely, she wondered aloud, why does her belly look so uneven and bumpy? Sure, sometimes hospitals attach monitors to expectant mothers, but everyone knows these devices are usually connected by wires right to the bedside machine, not left dangling or floating freely across the skin. Having given birth to 3 children herself, Kelly's experience backed this up. All the monitors they stick on you are hooked up to a device right next to your hospital bed. She didn't seem to have any of that wiring attached. The absence of any visible hospital equipment, the unclear setting, the strange movements, none of it added up. Instead of easing suspicions, the video only intensified the growing mystery, leaving viewers more curious and skeptical than ever before. I have no clue what's really happening beneath the surface here. According to Lady C, she was absolutely spitting bricks, a phrase that paints a vivid picture of just how furious and shaken she felt.
The weight didn't go on her arms, it didn't go on her face, it didn't didn't go on her legs. It didn't go on her bust. Where did that 65 pounds go? It was never 65. Also, Meghan has a propensity to exaggeration. Now, there's no doubt that she did gain weight after both children were born, but she didn't gain weight before, certainly, Archie was born. And off that photograph of her being about 27 months pregnant with Lily, as she's about to drop kid, or so she'd like us to believe, she has clearly not gained weight anywhere else except around the moon bump and the brown moon bump. So, I mean, are we dumb? I really wonder who is the fool. Is it us or is it Meghan? Because somebody's detached from reality, and I don't think it's the rest of the world. I think it's Megsy Baby.
You can almost imagine the scene, the tension thick enough to slice through the air. Now, the Sussex camp has offered their own response to all this chaos. Unsurprisingly, their most vocal champion stepped up with a bold statement to Newsweek, claiming that the entire uproar over the so-called moon bump was nothing less than a vicious act of cruelty steeped in racism. It was a claim meant to shut down the conversation and demand immediate sympathy. But here's where things get complicated. The same outspoken defender who's now accusing others of cruelty is also the very person who, not so long ago, vehemently insisted that images of Catherine's cancer journey were outright fabrications staged by the palace itself. Yes, that's right, the same individual who cast doubt on real suffering with wild accusations. You can understand the disbelief and eye rolls this evoked, especially from Lady C and a huge chunk of the online community. The internet wasn't about to quietly accept this dramatic lecture without pushing back.
How you can bend down, how you can open your legs and go right down, which is actually incredibly crude. And she's just letting it all go. Why has she waited 4 years, Elizabeth's birthday, to actually show when she was born? You know, it's absolutely horrendous.
When someone who's arguably the internet's most notorious purveyor of conspiracy theories tries to accuse others of cruelty, the claim really loses its punch. It's a moment where credibility and irony collide, making it hard to take the accusations seriously. This contradiction is what should give you pause, no matter where you stand on the issue. For years, the official explanation from the Sussex camp was that all the negative attention was simply the work of trolls, cruel, nameless strangers weaving stories out of nothing. But now, seeing this new twist, it demands a much closer look at what's really at play beneath the surface of public narratives and internet drama. Let's talk about a woman's body. Just a body, nothing more, nothing less, right? If that were really all there was, why would anyone make such a huge deal out of it? I mean, who could honestly care so much about something so basic that it barely scratches the surface? And if that were the whole story, I wouldn't waste a second on it either. But here's where it gets interesting. Consider who's actually speaking up now. We're not just hearing from everyday voices or internet chatter.
It looks like what you get if you put like a pillowcase full of like socks or something under your dress. You gotta look up close. There's very strange bumps coming off of that pregnant belly. I don't know why, Stu, but for the first time ever, I'm kind of like, is this something we should be indulging? Because it doesn't look normal to me. The belly doesn't look normal, doesn't look like where a pregnant woman's belly is, and I don't understand what all those bumps on the belly are. I don't get it.
That's interesting. Yeah, it does look different, I guess. I mean, I suppose it's possible that, I don't know. I wasn't there. But I will say I noticed the same thing you're noticing looking at it. I mean, it's the first thing that I think kind of pops into your mind. It's like, what's going on there?
Why is her stomach so bumpy? Maybe they had stuck some monitors on there, but normally they don't give you like remote monitors on your belly. I've had 3 kids. All the monitors they stick on you are connected to the thing that's right next to your hospital bed. She wasn't wired up at all. I don't know what's going on under there.
No, this is coming from a historian who actually knew the Queen, a person steeped in the intricate workings of the royal family. Then there's a commentator who has sat down with every senior royal correspondent across the UK, sharing insights that only someone with deep access can offer. Add to that Meghan Kelly, a major figure on American primetime television, lending her voice. And just this past week, Milo Yiannopoulos openly spoke out as well. Suddenly, what was once whispered in basements and dismissed as taboo is edging its way into public, mainstream conversations. This isn't some fringe movement anymore. It's the mainstream, cautiously stepping into territory it once refused to acknowledge for years, something it outright labeled unspeakable. Even the Daily Mail, known for its strict royal coverage, broke ranks. One of its own columnists almost pleaded with Meghan Markle to come clean, urging transparency in no uncertain terms. And don't overlook Tom Bower, a respected author who's chronicled many royal controversies. In his book, he presented a clear, documented version of these events, complete with facts, names, and specifics.
35 million people have looked at her bouncing belly. And I mean, it is an enormous number around the world because it is breathtaking. That's what she wants, my goodness me, I've done it.
If Meghan had admitted that, her children would not be in the line of succession. They might have an honorific title, but all she has ever wanted is for the kids to be in that line of succession so that her hopes of one day passing the British throne down through her line is not ruled out.
So real was his account that the Sussexes themselves threatened legal action over it. It's a remarkable shift from nobody wanting to touch the story to it now being impossible to ignore. This growing chorus of voices signifies a turning point, a slow but steady unraveling of secrets once kept under tight wraps. In the blink of an eye. That's just how they operate, swift and predictable, hitting with everything they've got. But here's the twist. They've never once tried this with Bower. Lady C sees right through it with her usual unshakable calm. She points out something sharp and unexpected: people who rush to sue over every little thing rarely go after the things that are actually true. It's a subtle yet powerful observation that makes you pause and think deeper about what's really going on behind the scenes. Now, here's the part that really sticks with me, the piece I keep going over in my mind. Each one of these voices, the ones pushing for answers, is asking for something incredibly simple. It's nothing dramatic.
And the Queen could not believe that she had given this girl, this scrubber with the most appalling reputation, that she had given her an opportunity. And she had believed that because Meghan had allowed her to believe that she wanted to join the team and work as a royal and do good as a royal. And she felt utterly betrayed that she had been manipulated the way she had by Meghan. And she also felt betrayed that Harry had been manipulated and that Harry had voluntarily jumped on the bandwagon and slit the Queen's throat.
Nothing outrageous. They're not demanding an admission of deception, not a confession or an apology. No, all they want is a gesture of transparency, the same kind of openness that other royal mothers have freely given time and time again, without turning it into a headline-grabbing spectacle. Just the bare minimum. Show us what you shared with everyone else, a small window into the truth. Lady C's way of putting this into words is, without a doubt, the sharpest insight in the entire saga. She frames it brilliantly. This isn't about evidence she can hold up in court or a legal battle she can win. Instead, it's a straightforward question, one that Meghan could easily settle quickly within the course of an afternoon if she chose. But she hasn't, and that's what makes it so compelling, because here is a woman who, over her entire public life, has never once shied away from stepping into the spotlight or defending herself when the stakes were high.
She was also furious about the whole surrogacy business and all of the speculation and all of the antics surrounding that. She thought the whole thing stank to high heaven, but there was nothing but her hands were tied, not only legally, but morally. Bricks when she discovered that they had named the child Lilibet. But by then, of course, it was too late to do anything. So she did the gracious thing and just, well, she didn't keep her feelings that much to herself, because she did express her feelings privately to certain people. But she was absolutely spitting bricks about it. But Meghan has inadvertently admitted that yet again she indulged in Dupa's delight.
Yet now, when the spotlight shines on this simple request, she remains silent. That silence, that choice to not respond, speaks volumes, and it's a silence that many can't just let go of. When someone truly wanted to defend themselves, especially against a question that seems so simple or even beneath them, they don't just go silent. That kind of quiet isn't because they have nothing to say, it's because they have nothing they're willing to show the world. Imagine this. She could bring everything to light in just one afternoon, with a single phone call or by releasing one document. That's all it would take to put an end to all the swirling rumors and speculation. But she doesn't make that call. She doesn't reveal that document. And that silence, that deliberate, heavy silence, is more damaging than any direct response ever could be. The whispers have grown louder, and some people have started to question if she was ever pregnant with either of Harry's children at all.
The moon bump story can no longer be ignored. Now, Meghan might try and ignore it, but it's out there in the mainstream. And the fact that Christopher Boozy, the spiritual leader of the Sussex Squad, Meghan Markle's chief troll, is now publicly for the first time acknowledging that there is a real issue.
She gave birth to them, and she has quite deliberately caused doubt, and she has created mischief, knowing that it would damage the royal family, which would show a level of spite and malice that is truly not only sick but evil.
Now, think about that for a moment. If she truly cared about proving those doubts wrong, why hasn't she done what countless royal women before her have done? So many women in the past, faced with similar doubts, have simply confirmed their stories by providing undeniable proof medical documents, signed and verified by doctors, that show the babies did indeed come into the world through them. It's been a tradition, a clear and trusted way to settle the debate completely. The solution has always been straightforward, so simple it almost feels like a missing puzzle piece.
But now, Milo Yiannopoulos, the American right-wing firebrand, is joining the party. For people who don't know, Milo Yiannopoulos, a very controversial American political figure, but he's been right first on a load of stuff that the mainstream media have avoided.
I believe that they lied, and I believe that the royal family didn't join in on this big cover-up. I think that they lied to the royal family, and by the time the royal family found out, it was too late.
If she wanted to lift the cloud of mystery and silence she's created, she absolutely has a way to do it. The question is, why hasn't she taken it? Why leave everyone guessing and speculating when the answer is just within reach? That silence speaks volumes, and that's a chapter all on its own. As we wrap up this journey, it's clear that in the world of royals and rumors, sometimes what isn't said echoes louder than any statement ever could.
Come clean! It is a case of saying that, isn't it? It's saying, come clean. If you've got nothing to hide, then, then what's the big deal?
Sussexes only will talk to people who repeat their own narrative.
Yes.
And who they can control. So the idea that you could get the truth from the Sussexes is contradictory.
The truth, the stories, the silence, they all shape the narrative in ways we never expected. Now that you've heard the full story, what do you think? Was the silence a choice or a consequence? If this story kept you hooked, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. And drop your thoughts in the comments below. We want to hear your take on this royal mystery. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more captivating stories like this.